Hey guys, Troy here with another quick pen mail video, and I've got two vintage pens and one modern pen to share with you today. So I'm going to share with you this one first. Packard. Packard from the 1920s and 30s was a third-tier manufacturer, and I've got some Packard pens here in my collection, and I've got a very nice one that really sticks out in particular. That's a button filler from the 1930s or so with a very nice celluloid. But this one here is a black hard rubber pen. You can see right there on the clip. It is an oversized pen, and it has a couple of bands on it, as you can see. It's kind of beat up. It's a little old. I didn't expect a heck of a lot from a pen of this vintage that I knew was going to need repairs. So I got it fairly inexpensively, actually fairly quickly too, and I can tell that this one is going to need a little TLC. So what I'm going to end up doing is tearing this sucker apart. I'll probably polish it up, get it as looking good as I can possibly get it, put a new sack on it, ink it up, and see how that one particular writes. If you shake it, I can hear that sack, so I haven't even really tried to do anything with it, but this one just showed up in the mail today. Also, in another shipment that showed up today was another third-tier manufacturer, Empire, E-M-P-I-R-E, Empire, and it's right here on the lever is kind of a wreath, and from what I have read, that Mark's Flintstone, no, Finstone, not Flintstone, but he was producing some pens, Monroe, Markston, Eclipse, and Park Row from that same time period. So he may have actually produced this particular pen just because that seems to be his trademark little lever imprint on the lever. But it's another oversized one, and you know, it kind of should remind you a little bit of you know, maybe the Cardinal, the Big Red, Parker Big Red, that kind of thing. So I've got some nice oversized, and I've got some flat tops, and I've got you know, even some nice Parkers here in my collection. But I thought that was kind of nice, and it was fairly inexpensive. It arrived fairly quickly. What I did not expect, however, was it to be in as good a condition as it was, and that it had a brand new sack on it already. I was expecting to have to tear it apart and put on a sack myself. The one thing about this, though, is this particular nib really needed some work, and the tines were seriously out of alignment. You probably can't tell much just by looking at it from here, but I can tell you that those tines are, I think one may be a little shorter than the other, and they need some work. But I went ahead and inked it up anyway, and I'll show you what I do have with it so far. What I put into it was the Birmingham Pens Edward T. Steelworks Coking Coal Black. I actually like this black ink. It is one of my favorites amongst several. So I like oversized pens, and when I had the opportunity to get two different oversized pens from the 1920s and 30s, lever fillers both, I went ahead and got them. So this is what I did on Fountain Pen Day. Alright, and the third pen in my pen mail today would be this, an Opus 88. Opus 88 is a company from Taiwan, and they've been in business since about 1977. This particular pen here is one that's sort of been on my radar, but quite honestly, I've looked at some of their pens, and some of them were hideously ugly in my humble yet most accurate opinion, and I did not want those models. But when I did find a decent deal that I could snag on this, the Opus 88 Clear Omar model. The Omar I was willing to look at in greater detail, so I went ahead and ordered it. It is an eyedropper pen, which means it's going to have a pretty good ink capacity, but it's not going to be a cartridge converter or a piston filler, as you may be more familiar with. For those of you who have never used an eyedropper, I'll explain that here in just a little bit. So it comes in this cardboard sleeve right here. You take that off, and you've got this presentation box that it comes with. A very plain box, Opus 88, fine writing instruments, and the only identifying marks would be right there as I showed you. So it's got a magnetic closure on the side of the box here. You open it up, and here's what you got. You've got a booklet. Now, the booklet does have some English instructions, but it's all pictogram, okay? So I'll show you that. And it doesn't have great detail, but I'll explain a few things. It comes with its own eyedropper, so if you wanted to get started, you've got it right here. You don't have to use something like I've been using, a blunt tip syringe when I filled it for the first time. I've already filled this pen once today, played with it some, and went, you know, I don't like that ink. So I just recently flushed it out and said I'm going to put in some more ink, and I'll just go ahead and re-record. So that's why I'm doing this. Alright, so you pull it out, and here's what you've got. Now, this is actually available in several different colors. Personally, I like demonstrators, so I went ahead and got the more demonstrator model. This particular one, you can see, I flushed it out, so you can see that there's moisture inside the barrel, but it is kind of a smoky barrel. It's not incredibly clear. It is just a little bit milky, but it is still considered a demonstrator. Here on the finial, you've got a nice clear acrylic dome. You've got that black band, and then you've got a very functional black clip. Down at the other end, at the tip here, you have another clear acrylic followed by another black band. Now, one of the things about this, though, I'll show you here in a moment, is actually a blind cap, and I'll show you what that's for. You unscrew the top, and here you go. You've got a semi-clear or transparent section. It is an oversized pen, so it's got a good girthy grip to it right there, and it's good and big enough that even my big old paws can hold it just fine. And you've got an oversized pen here for the barrel. Now, one of the cool things is, you see how long that is? You don't have to post it at all. You can, like this, but quite honestly, it's not going to work so well if you do what I'm going to show you here at the end. The nib is not anything particularly special, but this one is a medium nib, an Opus 88 steel medium nib. Alrighty, so it's an eyedropper, so this unscrews. You have an O-ring here, which should seal the pen, and it worked pretty well for me, sealing the pen from leakage upon my trying it. You see there's no cartridge or converter space really for it to go in here, because it is tapered down here at that acrylic drilling. And in here you have essentially a piston rod, and what that is, it's actually a one-way valve that will allow you to be able to shut the pen off and not allow any kind of ink to come down in here. So that black plunger, that black seal, can seat right in here and therefore not let any ink flow. How you do that is, you want to start to let ink flow, you back off from this a little bit. You see where you got that screw, and it's just like a blind cap. Like you would have on some other types of fillers, and it actually moves that in and out somewhat, so it gives you just a little bit of headspace in there. Now, quite honestly, what you can do, and I don't recommend it because I played with it just to see what it would do earlier, you can unscrew this all the way, and then you can actually pull this back and you can push it in. I don't really recommend that because it's not necessary for the operation of the pen. The idea is to just back off from that seal just a little bit in order to let ink flow. And when you don't want ink to flow, you go ahead and you close that one-way valve where it would seat down inside right there once again. So one of the things about eyedropper pens, and I've experienced this quite honestly, is a lot of burping. So when you're using it and the ink warms up, sometimes you'll get a little bleh. Especially on like a black chased hard rubber Waterman 12. Love a Waterman 12, love the flexibility on it, but every so often, if you're carrying it in your pocket, you got to pull it out, you're going to have ink all over the place. So it's just a fact of life. So it can stay on your desk, but I don't recommend carrying those. This, if you want to carry it, what you do is when you've got your barrel full of ink, all you would do is simply back off from that a little bit, and that will allow ink to flow past that little seal down into down in here into the section and into the feed, and feed your pen. All right. So here's what I'm going to do. I am going to start from scratch. I chose a different ink this time. I had like a really dark, what it was before, as a dark turquoise ink, and I wrote with it. I said, it's okay, but you know, I decided against it. Previously, what I had done is I had gotten out of the bottle. I just went ahead and sucked it up because I like this better than that eyedropper pipette thing. And I just kind of squirted it in here, and that gave me a better control as to how much I fill it with. Here is an ink sample. Monteverde Sapphire from Goulet Pens. I actually had more than one of these, so I think I put the two together into one, because Goulet typically only has like a 2 mil in their samples. And I think I had two 2 mil samples that I put together into this one bottle. So in here you can see what you got there. So let's go ahead and fill it. Alright, did not fill it all the way. I'm going ahead and cap that off. And then you would simply screw this in. Alright, now with this valve all the way closed, no ink is going to flow down into here. So what you can do is back off just a little bit, maybe a couple of turns, and hopefully you shake some ink down in. Now, if you were really risky and you wanted to have some fun with it, what you could do is unturn this, pull it all the way out, and then ram it on in. Make sure you get some paper towel or something that you're looking into, because it's going to all over the paper towel. I did it just to see what it would be like, okay? So, do I have ink yet? No. So let's go ahead and back off a little bit and let some more ink in. Alright, and let's go see if I can get some ink flow. Back it off just a hair. And now I've got ink starting to flow. So, valve is open, valve is all the way closed. And I can write this until it goes dry with that valve closed. Or I can back off just a little bit and have that valve open just a little bit. And it'll let that ink flow down in. So, when you're not using it, close it. Cap it. And you should be good. So this is my Eclipse. Not the Eclipse. This is the Empire, excuse me. Possibly made by Eclipse. And it's a good long pen. You don't really have to cap it. You know, third-tier manufacturers, if you're looking to get into vintage pens, look into some of the third-tier manufacturers. I'm going to do still some work on this nib just because I'm not quite satisfied with it to my own personal taste. But I am going to actually spend a little bit more time, and if I have to replace the nib on it, I'll see about replacing the nib. But I would say that this is possibly a 1930s. Now you hear that clicking? That's because of that nib, and I'm just not impressed with the tines on it. But something from the 1930s, yeah, okay, fine. It's probably, like I said, it's probably going to take just a little more work on that particular nib. So, this is an Empire. And it's a very fine writing nib. And this is probably a third-tier manufacturer. I mean, it'll write. It's a little bit on the scratchy side, and now that I'm writing with it more, you don't get quite that click sound out of that nib, but those tines just are not perfectly in alignment. You go too far, you're going to railroad there, but you can actually, the more you do it, there you go. So this is my first real writing with this Empire. I do like the size of it. I do like the oversize. I do enjoy a good vintage pen. I do enjoy the construction. It's a fairly solid pen. And it's something for me to play with. And it was under 20 bucks. I mean, shipped to my door. So somewhere around 20 bucks, call it. So I got a new toy there. You know, I wouldn't have thought that a pen from Taiwan would have been called an Omar. Middle East, I could have believed that, but maybe, I don't know, maybe I should have filled this just a little less, because I like to watch the ink slosh around inside, because you got it good and full. Now, this is all the way tightened. Loosen it up just a little bit so I can have continuous ink flow if I'm going to sit and have a good writing session. Otherwise, if it's just a short writing session, it doesn't matter. I could have left that tightened down. So, this is an Opus 88. And this is their Omar. Their Omar with a medium nib in a demonstrator. So, if you're looking for a relatively reliable large ink capacity pen, you know, you've got stuff, if you want to go low end, the Mooman M2 works very well for a Chinese pen. This one here, let me clue you a little bit as to how I ended up with this particular pen. This pen, I bought it on Fountain Pen Day to celebrate Fountain Pen Day 2019. Well, I was given a gift card for eBay. And I went ahead and bought it off from eBay. Now, for Fountain Pen Day, I had a pen distributor send me an email. And I went ahead and checked out their website. And this is, like I said, this is something I've had on on my radar for a little while. Because the Omar, to me, in the demonstrator, is a much more attractive pen than some of their others. It's not as... look at my van. My van is a little more boxy than the previous version of the same van, where it was more curvy on like a town and country. Well, this went the opposite way, from being more boxy, more like I showed you with this oversized pen for the Empire, where it was just, you know, squared on the ends and round, square, or flat kind of thing, where this is more curvy, a little more stylish, and I like the way it feels. I like the way it writes. So I figured I'll go ahead and give this a chance. Now, the email that I got was showing this pen on sale at like $97 or so American. And I said, you know, okay, that's a little expensive. It may be worth it. I'll give it a try because I like it better than the other Opus 88s that I've seen. So I investigated. Well, I happened to go look on eBay. Sure enough, there was this pen for the exact same price on eBay. In addition to that, it was being offered by Gold Spot Pens. I bought from them before, and I bought some nice upper end pens from them before. So they sell not only on eBay, but also on their website. So this was available for $97.50 US. I had a gift card. That combined with a $15 off purchase code that I got through PayPal, those two combined got me this pen down around 50 bucks. So somewhere in there, about 50 bucks. So, you know, it was 15% off plus at least a $25 gift card together, and, you know, somewhere right around 50 bucks. So I went ahead and bought this. Maybe a little more than 50. But anyway, I was quite happy with it. It just showed up today, and I already, like I said, this is my second time inking it up. The first time with an ink that I wasn't all that thrilled about. I didn't like how it looked when I started writing with it. It's an ink I've used before, but didn't want to look at in this pen, and for the use that I have planned for it, I decided I'm going to change the color. So, flushed it out, and I'm re-recording. So here we go, folks. An Opus 88 Omar medium nib demonstrator, and it's a very smooth writer. It fits well in the hand. I like oversized pens. I don't know if you do, but if you like a good oversized pen, and if you want a huge ink capacity that's not going to run dry on you anytime soon, I mean, good grief, look at that. I mean, this is what, a little 5 mil total bottle or a little container, and I had a good amount of ink. And that's one of the things I do like about ink samples. You can just drop it in to a anything like this when you've got an eyedropper. So that's my pen mail for today. Opus 88 Omar. Empire. And a pen I'm going to fix up. A Packard. And like I said, I've had some other Packards, so we'll see how it goes. All right, that's pen mail for today, folks. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.